Killer create vibes now.
Welcome to another episode of the Get a Love Like Mine podcast. We are your humble hosts. I'm Kesha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. This is episode 14. We pray that you guys have been enjoying all the content. If you're not following us already, make sure you do. We are on Facebook and Instagram as Get a Love Like Mine podcast and on Twitter as Get Love Like Mine. If you are watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, like, and share. And if you're just listening to the audio, still subscribe. So this week we are, we've had a lot of people, friends, acquaintances, talk to us about divorce, wanting to get divorced, and I just thought it was odd that multiple people talk to myself and my husband about divorce. So this episode is gonna focus on advice for those people who are considering divorce. I'm sure that you guys, if you watched previous episodes, you know that this is both of our second marriage. So we both gone through divorce. Mine was after, I think it was about 2 years of marriage. It was early. Yours was what, about 10 years?
11, something like that.
Something like that. So, we have a plethora of experience dealing with divorce and remarrying, having a happy marriage. So we hope that this episode will help somebody. So, you want to start?
In the beginning, one of the things we always want to make sure that we don't skip over is that you should always pray about your situation. Mm-hmm. If whatever it is, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. So relationship, marriages, anybody can end up in a marriage that's not fruitful, not productive, dysfunctional. I mean, it happens every day. Mm-hmm. To put it short, sometimes you just marry the wrong person. So you do want to pray about, am I doing the right thing?
Right. Don't decide you want a divorce in the heat of an argument. That is because if you analyze it and break it down, let's say we argued over you left the toilet seat up. And I've been telling you repeatedly, put the toilet seat down, and I'm just tired of fussing at you, and then I just yell out, I want a divorce. Now you have to tell your family and friends or whatever that you're getting a divorce because the man wouldn't put a toilet seat down. Like, that's nothing to get divorced over. So, you want to pray about your decision before you make a decision like that. Really, before you make any big decision in your life, you should pray about it. But definitely before deciding you want divorce. I personally believe that you shouldn't even throw that word around. Like, there's power in your words. So just even in the heat of an argument, yelling to your spouse, I want a divorce, or we could get a divorce, like that's just not the way to go. You're going to speak that into your marriage, and I just advise against that.
It's also planting seeds of doubt into your spouse's head. The one person that doesn't need to hear doubt come from you, mm-hmm. Well, that's the one thing they're hearing. So, like you say, it's not a word that you want to just toss around out of anger,
right?
A bad day. Everybody gets emotional from time to time, or your feelings got hurt, or or in a family gathering or whatever it was, and here you go using that word. So, try to be grown about it.
Yeah.
And make sure you're doing the right thing. One thing I was taught, I went to marriage counseling.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I remember the pastor saying is that you shouldn't stay together just for the sake of the kids.
I agree with that.
And one of the biggest reasons why is this. For starters, you guys are trying to raise these kids to have morals, values, to teach them right from wrong, keep them out of jail, all these good things. But if your relationship is dysfunctional, then you're going to pass that on to them. You stay together and you're verbally abusive, or you just can't get along. Maybe y'all don't have a lot in common, and one is always going to hang out, and the other one's whatever the situation is.
They're watching everything.
Everything, whether they, most of the time, depending on the age, when the younger the kids are, they may ask, but they're like little tape recorders. They're filming and recording everything they see. And sometimes they'll play it back at school, and the teacher says, where'd you get that word from? But the main thing is, you don't want to be abusive, or, a lot of times you may try to, if y'all have a disagreement, or we'll go in the room and argue, try to keep it out of the sight of the kids. But the main thing is, if you guys can't show your relationship in a positive light around these kids, then you're going to ruin those kids, and then when they get older, they're going to mimic what they saw. And if it was dysfunctional, guess what? The trend is going to keep going.
And some people, they think, oh, well, we don't argue in front of the kids, we go in the room and argue. You may go in the room and argue, but if you're loud enough, they can still hear you. But it's what happens when you come back out of the room that the kids see. So they see mom in the kitchen slinging dishes around. They see dad, sitting in the corner scrolling through his phone, laughing at whoever he's talking to in the meantime. They see you guys haven't spoken to each other in 3 days. They see you're not hugging each other. You're not kissing each other. They see all of that. So even though you didn't argue in front of them, it's obvious to them that something is not right.
The energy is wrong.
All the energy is wrong. These are not my loving parents. Or if, one of you, I won't even blame the man, but if one of you is like, gets off work and goes to hang out and you're not home before they go to bed, they see all of these things. They see you hanging out all hours of the night, or getting drunk, or doing drugs. Whatever it is that you're doing, your kids can see it. I know people think they can't, but they can. So I agree not to stay together for the kids, because for those very reasons that they can see. If y'all are arguing, the parents are sleeping in separate rooms, like, what example of marriage are you showing them, that you just stay together no matter what? Or if you're not going to show them a positive example, then I don't advise you to stay together just for the kids. But on the opposite side of that, if your only argument is about the kids, like let's say you have a blended family, and like my husband and I have a blended family. If the only thing we were arguing about was, I don't like how you talk to my daughter, or you showing this one favoritism over that one, blah blah blah, those are not things to get a divorce for. If you and your mate get along in every other aspect, but the only thing standing between you are these kids, then that's not a reason to get divorced, because guess what? Those kids are going to grow up and move out. They're not even going to be there forever. I mean, they'll be your kids forever, but they won't be in your house. So you will have, ended your marriage with your mate, somebody that you loved and that loved you, and then 2 or 3 years later, your teenager who, you know, had a problem with your mate is gone, and now you lonely. So, you know, the kids is a sore spot, but, you know, don't stay together just for them, but don't break up if you know, that's the only issue that you're having.
Let me just slide this in because it's not really about divorce, but while we're on the subject of kids, be careful what you do while those kids are around. See, I've seen parents drink, get drunk, or do drugs, whatever, and think when that kid gets old enough, I'll just tell them, don't do that. Well, it doesn't work like that. Because you don't have as much control over the kid as you think you do. So because they saw you do it, don't think just a loud voice is going to tell them, oh no, you need to stay on the right track. Don't do what you see. Do what
I
you
say.
Right. Well, that's nice, but I'm here to tell you that may not work out so great. So I'm just really saying, be mindful of the example you set for your kids. Even if they don't say a single word, they see everything you do, good or bad. I've had kids come back to me, and you know, it might even bring tears to your eyes and say, you know, Dad, you know, you did this, and I can't believe you looked out for me. Well, you never even knew that kid thought that of you.
That they were watching.
That they were watching, but they were watching the whole time. So, you know, it can happen. It will happen.
Yeah. So, back to divorce.
Yes.
Another bit of advice I would give, because I see this a lot, don't disrespect your marriage. And when I say that, you know, I see a lot of people with what they call work wives and work husbands. It's one thing to have a work wife and a work husband when you're not really married. It's all make-believe. This is just your husband when you're at work. But when you have a husband when you go home, I don't think a work husband or a work wife is to me, it's kind of disrespectful to the marriage. And I say that because of my perception, which is that you may be confiding in this person about real issues in your marriage. And I don't think you should confide in some man or woman of the opposite sex telling them that you have problems in your marriage, because they're just looking for an opportunity to weasel their way in and, you know, be the cleanup man or the cleanup woman. And I just think that's disrespectful to the marriage. But some people with their work wives or the work husband, it's a lot of flirting going on. And I think flirting while you're married, that's a big no-no. Like, that is a disrespect to your marriage. I personally think anything that you're doing with someone of the opposite sex or same sex, if you are, homosexual, anything that you're doing with someone else that you wouldn't do in front of your spouse is disrespectful to your marriage. So if the flirting is something you wouldn't do in front of your husband or wife, if you go to the office Christmas party and you bring your husband and your work husband is there and you don't introduce your husband and say, this is my work husband, then you don't need to have that work husband. Like, anything you're doing that you're keeping secrets from your spouse, or like I said, you wouldn't do it in front of your spouse or say it in front of your spouse, those things are disrespectful to your marriage, and something that I don't think you should be doing. If especially if you're considering divorce, those type of relationships only contribute to that feeling that you're with the wrong person. Because if you have somebody to compare them to, of course you might say, oh well, my husband doesn't do this, but my work husband does. Well, guess what? If you didn't have a work husband, you wouldn't even be focused on what your husband doesn't do. So I think that's a definite no-no. What do you think about the work husband, work wife?
I understand what you're saying, and just giving that other person at work that title is going to breed confidence in them that, for starters, I'm a little bit above everybody else around here. Okay? And then you're looking at me in this way, like, I can't speak for women, but I work with men that will take the smallest, just speaking, just hugging, a smile, ask them to pick my pen up. Boy, they will take that one little opportunity, and man, in their head, they festered up a whole story on how she's dead set on getting with him. You're interested in me now? Tomorrow, if she drop another pen tomorrow, it's on.
Yeah, that's why I say no flirting. You might think it's harmless flirting. Let me speak from my own experience. My mom is the biggest flirt you will ever meet in your life. Like, the mailman comes, she flirting. The waterman comes, she flirting. She's a flirt, but she doesn't really like these people. That's just how she talks to them. You know, how you doing today, sweetie? Hey, handsome. You know, those type of things. And so, because I grew up watching her, I grew up doing the same thing, just flirting. Not intentionally flirting, but the way it sounds to somebody who doesn't know you may think it's flirting. So when I got with my husband, I had to learn to check that, because I realized the things or the ways that I was talking to those men, I wouldn't talk to them like that if my husband was around. Well, he wasn't my husband at the time, but when he was around, I wouldn't speak that way. So I had to realize, hey, this is not conducive to a great relationship. This is what I would think is harmless flirting, but I come to find out these men, they literally thought I liked them, and I didn't. So then the next day, they're bringing you lunch, or I got an extra soda out the soda machine. You want a soda? You know, they're doing things for you. And it's like, okay, I don't want this man to think that I like him or that he has any chance of being with me. So the harmless flirting, like I said, if you're not willing to do it in front of your spouse, that's something you need to check.
Definitely. And keep this in mind also, how far stuff can go just off of, I had extra soda. Now, the guy might not have had extra soda. He might have actually put extra money in the machine to get extra soda. That's
exactly what he did. But of course, he had to, make it seem like something else.
So, a lot of times, men are putting a down payment on something. So I'm saying, like, okay, I'm going to expect some more of your time somewhere down this line.
Ladies, your time is worth more than 50 cents for a soda. Just letting you know.
Right, and then I've seen women with the mentality of, shoot, give it to for free.
I'm just gonna take it. You bringing me lunch today, tomorrow I want Papa Do's. Yeah. The next day I want.
Or they said, when you gonna bring me? That must have just been some leftover. Why you ain't brought nothing since?
I tell you something else now as you talk about this. I like to cook, and back when I used to work at the post office, I used to like to make like a big pan of lasagna or something, and I was living by myself, just me and my daughter, and so I would bring I might bring a pan of lasagna to work. My husband, he wasn't my husband at the time, but he was like, what are you doing feeding these men? That's gonna make them think you want them. And literally, that is what they would think. Oh, she cooked for me. Oh, she a catch. Oh, she this. Oh, she that. But in actuality, I just did that because you can't make lasagna for one. You have to make the whole pan. So I just brought it to work so that it wouldn't go bad sitting in my refrigerator. But yeah, things you do for the opposite sex, it ends up being disrespectful to your marriage, and you just have to keep those things in mind. Another thing that we wanted to address about divorce is your finances. I know some people think, it's cheaper to keep her. Some people say that, it's cheaper to keep her. or for women, if you, let's say you're a stay-at-home mom and you don't work, so you think you have to stay in this marriage because you're not financially able to leave. To that I say, because you've already prayed about it, to trust God, to trust that God is going to provide for you. Don't stay in a marriage that you know is harmful to you. If you're being emotionally abused, physically abused, manipulated, cheated on, dogged out, your husband's on drugs, whatever the issue is, don't stay just because you think you don't have enough money to leave, because God will provide for you. That I'm not saying it won't be rough, but money is not a valid reason to stay in a loveless marriage. However, most marriages, they do end because of finances. If your finances, like you're both making money, you're just arguing over it because, maybe one of you is a spender, like the question we had on Ask the Amoses a couple of weeks ago, the guy with the overdraft fees. If that is the issue, you could work on that. Like there's no reason to end your marriage strictly off of money, especially if you love the person. You can learn financial literacy. You can learn how to manage your money. You can learn to budget your money. So I don't think you should break up if you're just fighting over money.
It's definitely a touchy subject, whether it's dating, marriage, best friends. People and their ideals when it comes to money, everybody, a lot of people are different, and I have groups of friends that when it comes to money, they just hold money to a higher standard than really what it's for. And that can cause problems. But really, you need to make sure that you know who this person is before you get married or while you're dating. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things, like when people say, oh, well, y'all got married too early, or, whatever. These are the things that you need to learn about that person to see if they're marriage material. I've seen women that, they weigh the option of keep living the lifestyle because he's got that much money, and just deal with, he's only coming home acting up once every 2 or 3 weeks. I only have to take a skillet upside the head once a month.
The good outweighs the bad.
Right, if I duck, he may miss. So, I just gotta, should I look for a way out, look for, to get out of this abusive relationship, or, should I work on my agility moves and duck him a little bit, But all these things, we make a joke about it, but these are things that people consider when money is involved. Some people will stay there and take that whooping.
Yeah.
Because, they don't want to leave that lifestyle and that money. Or I've seen men that have that kind of money. I mean, that get money that a lot of people wish they had. Mm-hmm. Then felt like, well, shoot, as long as I'm paying for everything.
You can't tell me nothing.
Yeah, it's best you stay quiet. Because do you know how many women will replace you?
Right.
To live like this? And they'll let me go on road trips with the fellas and cheat all I want. They don't care. So, I would hate for you to have to debate something like that. But just these are the things you need to learn about a person when you're going down that road.
Mm-hmm. Before you get married, you guys need to have the talk about money. And but it's a big reason that couples get divorced. You guys know I'm an attorney. I have a lot of people who that is their major complaint. One will say, I'm good with money. My credit score is this, and this. But his credit score is so low, and he can't do this, and he can't do that. And I'm looking like, so you think you making him look bad, but to me, you look just as bad, because why didn't you build him up? Why didn't you help him figure out his credit? You guys are one. His credit score is your credit score.
What Judge Judy say?
You picked him.
You picked him. That's right.
Yeah. Like, you should have had that discussion about money before you got married. And if you knew that before you got married, this is not a great reason to get a divorce.
And you still got married,
yeah, right? Because, if you tell me, my name is the name on the house and the cars because he didn't have good enough credit to get all of that. But now you want to leave because he didn't have good enough credit to get all that. No, that's not fair. You knew those things going in. So, it is what it is. So we just want to give you guys a little advice. If you're considering divorce, like I said, we had a few people to come to us just this week to say that they're contemplating divorce. So we just want to offer a little advice to you guys.
For starters, everyone needs someone that they can, I hate to use this word, I just don't like this word, confide in. I don't know, maybe that word just sounds old. I don't know, that's just me, I don't like it.
It's not that it sounds old. It
sounds like a woman word.
Oh.
Okay, so anyway, what I'm trying to say is you need someone that you can discuss things with that is not just going to tell you what you want to hear, for starters. Mm-hmm. Someone that can bring it to you real. Somebody that has common sense when they speak. Whether you right or wrong, they can give it to you straight. Mm-hmm. We all have that friend that, I'm not going to say everybody, but I've seen friends that maybe they're lousy at relationships. And they're not really supportive of yours. Mm-hmm. Whether they might put on a show when you're around, or they may not express it openly, but they're that one friend that's always saying, "Oh, if that was me, man, I wouldn't take that, man. If I was you, I would." Well, that's not the friend I'm talking about. You don't need to. That was not going to help out with anything.
Yeah. I don't even think you should. I mean, I get what you're saying. But I don't even think you should confide in a friend when you're going through something like that. Because you're only telling you're only telling your version of events. So, like, my brother is great at this. My brother is, whenever he tells me a story, he's never going to look bad in the story. If he looks bad in the story, it's like he's the victim so that you're mad at the other person. But he never tells what he did to the other person. He never tells why the other person cursed him out. He'll just come and tell me, big sister, this person cursed me out. And then I'm mad, ready to fight the other person. But then I go to them and they're like, but he punched me in my nose. I'm exaggerating, but what I'm trying to get at is, if you go and talk to somebody by yourself, you're only going to tell your side. So the advice they give is not going to be valid because they don't know the whole story. They don't know how the other person in the relationship feels about it. But if you guys can't find an impartial person, like maybe your pastor or a parent, maybe a sibling. I'm not 100% certain because sometimes siblings are the ones who are not supportive. But someone who loves you both or doesn't know either of you. And both of you should go and talk to that person and just get a outside looking in perspective, because when you go and tell the story, you're only going to tell what the other person did wrong. You're never going to acknowledge what you did wrong, how you played a part in it. So Like I said, I don't think you should just confide in somebody by yourself. I think you guys need to either go to counseling or talk to your pastor about it, or talk to one of your parents, someone who, like I said, loves you both or doesn't know either of you, that is going to be impartial and unbiased and help you get to the root of it. Which getting to the root of it will be our second advice. Identify what the real problem is, because a lot of times we argue, but we're not really communicating. So you think you're arguing because he left the toilet seat up. But if you were really communicating, you could say to him, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I have to work, I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to do this for the kids. And all I'm asking you to do is put the toilet seat down when you're done using it, and you won't do it. So a lot of times we end up arguing over something that's not really the problem. So if you get to the root of the problem, maybe you can figure out what it is, the reason that you're arguing so much. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I believe that if, as a person on the outside looking in, that whatever the problem is, you need to just keep things as simple as possible. You need to answer simple questions and see if this is worth moving forward or not, or however the two of you choose to deal with it. So when you and I used to argue, we would argue over the smallest things. We really couldn't understand why, because it would happen so often. And this is how we stopped, because we stopped arguing. And you would say it was like for a couple that argued for 2 years straight, and then to cut it off and not argue for 3 or 4 or 5 years straight. Like, did somebody die? What happened here? that don't sound right. But it was a process of answering just the simplest question: can I see my life without this person? Because definitely we arguing while we dating, and my biggest concern was, how am I gonna marry this person? And we can't stop arguing. You don't move forward from there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You got to find out what is this? So once I answered the question, can I see my life without her? The answer was no. I don't want anybody else. I only want you. But I want you without the arguing. I don't want to keep arguing with you.
Right. So
once I realized that, okay, even at the end of the argument, I still just want you, the argument stopped. So identify what is the problem here. Is it the kids? Is it money? Is it outside friends trying to influence you to go hang out when you really didn't want to? But I got to put on this front like she's not controlling me, he's not controlling me, I'm going to go anyway. And then I'll just deal with him when I get back home.
Is it going out, period? Is that what the problem is?
Is it drinking? Is it, are you dirty? You don't want to keep the house clean? Whatever it is, find out what it is so that you can deal with that one thing. Because if you don't want to be with somebody else, if you I just want this person, I just want the problem solved. I'm a firm believer that I don't care what the problem is. If you don't want anyone else, that problem can be fixed.
Oh yeah, anything is possible with God. With our relationship, we were arguing so much, and I don't even know where I got this from, but I told him, I said, let's take some time apart. We're going to take about a week, and I want you to make a list of all the good things you like about me and the bad things that you don't like about me. And I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to weigh the pros and cons. And if it's more good things on the list than bad things, then we'll stay together. If it's more bad things, then we're breaking up. And I know we had a week, and I know we didn't take a week before he was like, I just don't want to be without you. And I was the same way. I wasn't even done with my list. I would when I would think of something, I would add it on the list But of course, there were more good things than bad things. The main thing I believe was that we weren't spending enough time together, because as soon as we started spending more time together, we stopped arguing. It was like anytime we were apart or apart for too long, we would argue. So it is what it is. That might not be what you guys are arguing about, but the point is to get to the root of it. Decide whether you can live without that person, and if you can't, then just pray about it and ask God to to guide you guys to restore what was lost, to take you back to the beginning of when you were so in love and inseparable and wanted to get married.
Okay, and so now here comes the biggest part. This is the biggest piece of advice we can give. Okay, so now that you realize what the problem is, you identified it, you answered the simple question, can I see my life without this person? Do I really want to be with them? Mm-hmm. Enough to get past our problem. So now, this is the biggest part. What part in the problem do you play? See, you don't go in to counseling thinking I need to help you fix your side of the problem. Mm-hmm. See, Michael Jackson made a song. What's the name of it?
The Man in the Mirror,
right? Mm-hmm. For a reason. He did it because of this podcast. What he wants you to do is stop trying to fix the other person. Mm-hmm. And that was another thing that she and I had to do.
Yeah.
Stop pointing out all her, because see, one thing she doesn't need is someone to point out all her mistakes. Boy, I can run them down. Look at here. Let me show you what else I just thought of another one you didn't do.
Something else
Remember when you left the car in the driveway? Put that on there too. Yeah. But she doesn't need her spouse making her list of faults. And I don't need to be focused on her faults. Mm-hmm. But instead, I need to turn that camera around to the selfie side and start viewing that selfie side. I need to fix what's in that mirror.
Right.
If I fix me and she fixes she, you'd be amazed at how much better you guys can get along.
Mm-hmm. Like I was saying about the clients that I have for the divorces, a lot of them, they come in and he does this and she does that and this, that, and the third. And it's like, I hope you don't think you're perfect, because you had to have played a part in it. If your complaint is, he won't talk to me, he just shuts down whenever I'm trying to tell him something. How is it that you're trying to tell him something? Are you yelling at him? Are you calling him out of his name? Or are you making a list? You always do this and you always do that. I was telling somebody this week that always and never, those were triggers for my husband. If we were in the middle of an argument and I said, you never want to do this or you always doing that, I don't know what it was about those words, but they were triggers, and that would take the argument into a whole other direction. Because in actuality, it wasn't always and never, but he took it personal. So I had to learn how to speak to him in a way that he could receive what I was saying. And a lot of times it's being specific. Just like I said earlier about communicating, when you're fussing at him about not putting the toilet seat down, if you were specific and to say, look, babe, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm having to do this. I'm having to do that. Please just, put the seat down. Just give me one less thing to do. And then, maybe he can receive it better than, you need to sit down when you pee if you can't put the toilet seat down. It's just a way you have to learn to talk to your mate. And I can only speak for women because my husband doesn't talk crazy to me, but I probably have talked crazy to him before. But I had to learn how to talk to him and speak to him. Not like I'm his mom, because I'm not his mom. I can't tell him, you need to do this and you need to do that. And it's crazy to me to see women saying that to their men, and then their man's like 5 or 6 years older than them, and they telling him, you need to do this and you need to do that. Like, ladies, sit down somewhere. This man, you need to respect your elders. But neither one of you should be talking to each other like that, telling them what they need to do. You should tell them how you need it to be done. You can say that, or how you like it to be done. Babe, I would like it if, when I get home, I don't have to wash the dishes. And maybe he'll take it upon himself to do it, but you can't come in and say, you need to get in there and wash those dishes, like you're not his mom. So, we have to learn how to talk to the other person and realize that we make mistakes too. You are not perfect. You can't constantly... That's why I said I don't think you should go and confide in somebody else, because all you're going to go do is say, he always doing this and he always doing that and he's doing this. You're never going to acknowledge what you did wrong in the situation. I have a friend who, I hope she watched this podcast too. Her mouth is lethal. Like, she's one of those people that she'll tell you, I hope you die or something, in the middle of an argument. She's just lethal. But a couple of hours later, when she is not mad anymore, she will, come to you and act like nothing ever happened and be like, oh, you still mad about that? Why are you mad? I only said that because I was angry. I didn't really mean it. But words like that, talking to somebody like that when you're angry,
they slice them up.
It slices you up, and people don't forget that. Like, it's like psychological. It's like telling your child, I can't stand you. I hate you. You make me sick. And then later on, you telling them, oh, good night, baby. Mommy loves you. And they're like, no, you don't. You just told me you couldn't stand me. Like, you have to watch your words and how you talk to people, your children and your spouse. So, I think we're going to get to Ask the Amoses. So, this week for Ask the Amoses, I saw this scenario on the Shade Room. I told you guys last week that somebody asked me to give little general legal advice. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to give the legal side, but I want to get your reaction. So here's what it says. I don't know if I'm being petty here, but I feel like I'm not. So my ex-husband remarried and has kids with his wife. She owns a business, and I found out that she makes almost $1 million a year. My ex works and gives me $900 a month in child support for our daughter, but I don't think it's fair. I told him that it would be nice if he sent me more money for my daughter. He told me that his wife and his accounts are not together, but honestly, I want to take him and his wife to court to get the max amount I can for my daughter. I work from home and my husband is in the Army, but we are struggling. It would be nice to have that additional income that my daughter deserves. What do you guys think? So what do you think?
For starters, when somebody starts off with, I don't want to feel like I'm being petty. You're probably being petty. You're just trying to move that word out of the listener's thought process before it even gets started. I'm not a huge fan of the way the child support system is set up. I've seen some horror stories. But for someone to sit here and research their ex's wife's finances and feel like they're entitled to them, wow. Why don't you just rob a bank if you just feel like, I need more money and I think I see where I can get some?
Yeah, that's crazy.
To say, oh, well, this husband's in the Army and I work from home. Well, you never thought maybe you should do something else?
To me, this is a prime example of when divorce goes right. See, that man, he went and found him a wife that's an earner. She's making $1 million a year. And he divorced the lady who is waiting on a handout. She is waiting on somebody to line her pockets.
And she thinks she found it, right?
No, she said her and her husband are struggling.
I mean,
Oh,
you said she's looking for someone.
Yeah,
Well,
she
thinks
found the
she's found
husband's
it.
new wife.
But I don't want y'all to think I'm being petty, but
Don't be petty.
yeah, I'm not being petty. But I think I found a way.
My ex-husband's, when we got married, he had a son. I think how old his son was. When we started dating, his son was 18 months. But when we got married, his son was like 4 or 5, somewhere. I think 4. So my ex-husband, I was working at the post office. I can't remember where he was working or if he was working at all. But his baby mama pulled that. She told him that she needed to file child support on me. And I'm like, this is not my child. Like, what are you talking about?
Y'all didn't both have him, right?
Yeah, like, how many mamas does he have?
That's crazy, man.
But, this is, some women think like that. But for the legal advice, for those of you who think you're entitled to your ex-husband's new wife's money, this woman is not a parent to this child, a biological parent or adopted parent or any of those things. So she's not legally, financially responsible for the care of this child. So you are not going to be able to take his wife into court. The fact that he keeps his finances separate from his wife is all the more reason for you to know you are not going to be able to attach yourself to her money. Because if that were the case, what if they flipped the script and tried to take money from you and your army husband? It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun, I tell you that. So this man's wife is not legally responsible for you or your child. The fact that you are receiving $900 a month for one child is a blessing. Because let me tell you, I get $300 for one child. 3. I don't know what state she's in or whatever, but $900 for one child is a good amount of money. And if you're receiving $900, you're working from home, and your husband is in the army, and I know they have military benefits. You probably can get free housing. You probably, you get all kinds of military benefits. So just know you cannot take this man's new wife to court. And matter of fact, you better stay out of court, because he can get a modification of his child support based on the fact that him and his new wife have new kids. See, when the court sees that you are financially responsible for, let's say him and his new wife have 2 kids. So he's paying you child support for 1. But if the court finds out that he has 2 new kids that he's now financially responsible for, they will reduce your $900 to an amount that's more feasible for him to be able to care for all 3 of his kids. So y'all better stop being greedy out here before y'all end up with nothing. So anyway, you have anything else?
No. I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay. Well, for those of you who are considering divorce, we hope that this podcast has given you something to think about. We pray that you will pray and that God will give you a plan and a strategy to mend your marriage. We pray that you guys will restore the love that you once had. We pray financial blessings over you if money is the issue. We pray that you're able to communicate and self-reflect and analyze and do better in your marriage. But in the alternative, if you do decide that you're going to divorce, we pray that God will be with you through it all, that He will provide you with strength and financial blessings and whatever you need to persevere. We thank you guys for listening. Like I said, this week we just answered a question that we saw. But if you want advice on relationships, dating, friendship, parenting, your walk with God, or if you have a legal question that I can give you general advice about, make sure you send your question to Get a Love Like Mine podcast and put in the subject line Ask the Amoses so we can find it. And we thank you guys for listening. Have a good week.
Have a good week.